Welcome back to the session on Model 3 Corporate Strategy, to the component or the concept on benchmarking. In the previous session, I had discussed about balance scorecard. The balance scorecard had 4 perspectives: financial perspective, company perspective, inter-business perspective, and we also spoke about the learning and growth or organizational perspective was seen in the balance scorecard within the 4 key terms or the areas where we could talk about in terms of objectives, measures, targets and initiative, which is being aligned with company or firm vision and strategy. That was what seen in the last session from the balance scorecard. So where we spoke about financial perspective is cash flows, return on investment. Customer perspective talked about assessment of ability to anticipate customer needs, effectiveness of customer service and practices, percentage of repetitive business and quality of communication with the customers was seen in the financial from the customer's perspective. Inter-business perspective, where asset satisfaction, utilization, improvement of the asset, improvements of employee morale, and also changes in turnover rates, whatever the required changes. From the learning and growth perspective, improvement in innovation ability. We talked about number of products compared to whatever improvements in terms of developing the product, so that where we have a competitive advantage, where the firm can have a competitive advantage over its competitors, and also increasing or enhancing the skills of the employees, so that learning and growth of the employee happens in terms of knowledge gaining, where it directly reflects on the performance of the employee in the organization, where he or she could do the assigned job effectively and efficiently. This was all about balance scorecard, which was discussed in the previous session. The last concept related to your Model 3 is of benchmarking. In today's session, we will be seeing about benchmarking. What is benchmarking? It says there is some marking is some standard, some sort of a level which is being set. So it is a potent tool for learning which firms are best at performing particular activities, and then using the techniques or best practices to improve the cost and effectiveness of the firm's own internal activities. So it is used as a way to understand how an organization strategic capability in terms of internal process compare with those to that of other organization or competitive organization. So here we also talk about it entails making cross company comparison of how certain activities have been carried out and performed and the cost associated with it. So here we can talk about how materials are purchased, how inventories are managed, how products are assembled, how customer orders are filed and shipped, and how maintenance is performed. So that's what we could see these activities in terms of benchmarking. So that's what it talks. So the next thing move on is, what is benchmarking? So benchmarking is a strategic tool that used to search for business, is a strategic tool used to compare the performance of business, process and the product with the best performance of the companies inside and outside the industry. It talks about business, process and product. Performance is compared with the best performance of the other companies who are excelling in the business in terms of the product and service provided by the competing firm. So benchmarking is the search for industry's best practice that lead to superior performance. So benchmarking is simply finding and implementing the best business practice where the company's overall performance could be enhanced, everything in turn adds on to profitability and retaining or increasing the customer's satisfaction level. So, managers use this tool, the benchmarking, to identify the best practices adopted in other companies and apply those practices in their own process, in the firm, in their own company, in order to improve the company's performance. So, a brief history about a benchmarking has been, a chart is shown here, where in the case 1950 to 1975, benchmarking, it talks about reverse engineering. 1976 to 1986, competitive benchmarking. 1982 to 1986, it was process benchmarking. 1988 onwards, strategic benchmarking, and after 1993 onwards, we see it in a global perspective of global benchmarking. So, if we talk about what is benchmarking, so benchmarking is nothing but the strategic management process that involves comparing the organization performance, process, practices against industry standards, best practices. For example, if you take an automobile manufacturing company, what are the best quality management practices they have? For example, inventory management, just-in-time inventory, economic order quantity, EOQ inventory. In terms of finance, break-even analysis, return on investment. How do they have a balancing, or how do they see that the return of investment is being at a good site over a period of time? We talk about in case of the best practices or whether competitors, is there anything good practice in terms of their creation of goodwill of the company? What are the strategy used by, what is the strategy followed by the competitive firm to increase their brand value or to increase their market share, to identify the areas for improvement and drive performance excellence is what benchmarking talks about. It is a systematic and structured approach to measure the performance related to the peers, your competitors or leading organization in the industry. Let it be a pizza manufacturing company, or with the thing which is delivers, because when you take the moment pizza, they are Domino's pizza, there is a pizza and they have a varieties of people in that particular food industry. So, what is the best practice they have, whether it is a delivery time, whether it is the size of the product, the pizza thing, the base or the ingredients which goes in the making of a pizza, or the different unique toppings, that's where we talk about resource based value. The resources which are used are VRIO, valuable, rare, inimitable, and it is organized. So, the taste, the uniqueness, what are the unique contents which goes in the making of a pizza? So, what is the industry standard it is there? So, benchmarking enables organization to access their strength and weakness. Strength and weaknesses are the internal to the organization. So, as an organization, they should be in a position to enhance or improvise on strength, overcome the weakness. How do you overcome the weakness? If it is in the thing, if it is in the opportunity stage, try to subsidize your weakness by working on your strengths and encashing, or you making you utilize or identifying the opportunity and encashing on it. If it is a threat, you try to avoid it. Your weakness, your opportunities and threats are external to the organization, where you try to avoid your threat and also your weakness simultaneously. That is where in the SWOT analysis we had seen in the previous session. Here also the benchmarking enables the organization to identify the internal factors such as strength and weakness, identify opportunities for improvement, and learn from industry leaders to enhance the performance and competitiveness. So, what are the challenges the industry faces with respect to its competing firms? How to overcome the challenges? The challenges can be overcome by strengthening on the strengths, and opportunities are utilized for better, made a better use of it, and overcome the weakness and face the challenges or the external constraint with working on the positive aspects of the industry, whatever the firm's strengths or the resource available. So, that is what the benchmarking talks about. So, when you talk about the benchmarking, so in the benchmarking we have 3 different types of benchmarking. So, for you there is a schematic representation. The diagram has been taken from external source for the benefit of the students. So, basically here there are 3 types of the benchmarking. We have strategic benchmarking, performance benchmarking and process benchmarking. Again we have different types of approaches. 5 internal approach, competitive approach, external approach, functional approach and generic approach. All this overall in turn provides makes a superior performance can be provided by the organization. So, now let us get a glimpse of what are these 3 types of benchmarking that managers can use identified types are here. So, there are 3 types of benchmarking. So, these 3 types of benchmarking that the managers can use identified major types are strategic benchmarking. What is strategic benchmarking? Managers use this type of benchmarking to identify the best way to compete in the market. What are those? During the process, the company identify the winning strategies, usually outside their own business. What is the winning strategy? Then that successfully company use and apply to their own strategic process. It is also common to compare the strategic goals in order to spot a new strategic choices. So, strategic benchmarking. So, what the companies identify the winning strategies outside their own industry. The company can successfully use and apply to their own strategic purpose to gain a better financial firm's performance. Second one is we talk about the performance benchmarking. It is concerned with comparing company's product or service. The tools mainly focus on product or service quality, features, price, speed, reliability, design and customer satisfaction. For example, if you take up an automobile industry, there in the case of you have different variety of scooters or mopeds available. So, each vehicle or a bike or a scooter is unique. If you take a TVS Jupiter, if you take a kinetic Honda, both are in automobile two-wheeler segment, but each of that have a unique features speed wise, pickup wise, cost wise and flexibility design wise. They and a customer satisfaction. So, each company has got its own competitive advantage. But as a whole, the tool, this basically what happens here as a whole, it can measure anything. The performance benchmarking can measure anything that has measurable matrices, including process. So, performance benchmarking determines how strong the company product are as compared to competitors' product. If you take a two-wheelers, a TVS two-wheeler, kinetic Honda and TVS, if you see each may be a TVS Jupiter, kinetic Honda Activa, it's got its unique features. So, in the performance of the two-wheeler, in terms of the price, in terms of the product features, in terms of the color available, in terms of the speed, in terms of the mileage, in terms of the additional space which has been provided for storage of your dicky, or they call it as storage of your items. So, it has got its own unique style also. So, there you can see. So, this benchmarking, performance benchmarking helps determine how strong the one company's product or service are as compared to their competitor. That is what performance benchmarking talks about. The third benchmarking is a process benchmarking. It requires to look at the other companies that engage in similar activities to identify the best practices that can be applied to their own, to the firm's own process in order to improve them. So, process benchmarking is a separate type of benchmarking but usually derives from performance benchmarking. For example, in the factory layout, if you take productions and operations management, the factory layout, there can be a, you have a different types of a layout which has been, or in the case of a shop, for example, if you take a retail outlet, the design of the retail outlet, the merchandising of the items in the retail, in the particular thing has been unique. From one outlet to other outlet, you can find a uniqueness. There it talks about, it is usually derives from the process benchmarking, usually derives from the performance benchmarking, because because companies first identify the weak competing points of their products or service, and then focus on the key process to eliminate their weakness. So in the process, a company first try to identify what are the lacunas or what are the weak points, and the company try to focus on these key process to eliminate those weakness. For example, an organization using performance comparison identifies a product X is superior in feature in terms of quality, manufacturing quality and design, but the price is priced than competitors' product, but they are higher priced than the competitor product. Then the company determines which process adds cost to the value. For example, if you take an automobile industry, a two-wheeler, it is good in terms of quality and design, but the cost of a two-wheeler A is more than the cost of the two-wheeler B, which is also have a unique product and design. So the two-wheeler A company will see what is that which adds an added on value or a cost which increases the cost of this product to a particular price. So there it tries to cut down on those costs. So the most of the cost of the product, and see how to improve them by looking at the similar but less cost heavy process in other company. So that is what we talk about the process benchmarking with the example. So this is what about the three different types of benchmarking which one can come across in an organization. We talked about strategy benchmarking, performance benchmarking, process benchmarking. In the next session, we will talk about the approaches of benchmarking.